Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. J.B.Stroubel of Tesla Motors and Governor Won Hee-ryong are entering the room. Please give a warm round of applause for welcoming them. This special session number 2 consists of 2 parts. A keynote speech will be delivered by Mr. J.B.Stroubel of Tesla Motors, followed by a dialogue between Mr. Stroubel and Governor Won. Let me give you a very brief introduction of Mr. Stroubel. Mr. Stroubel is the co-founder and chief technical officer of Tesla Motors. Of course, the company is a leader in developing and manufacturing electric vehicles. Mr. Stroubel is overseeing the technical and engineering design of the Tesla vehicles. He's also recognized as one of the 35 greatest innovators under the age 35 by MIT Technological Review. Now, we will start listening to keynote speech by Mr. Stroubel.
Well, thank you. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. It's an honor to be here and be able to talk to you a little bit about the vision that Tesla has and where we're going and what the future of some of our products and markets look like. And sorry, maybe we can start on slide number 1. And I think the place to really begin in this discussion is a bit of a reminder of why we do what we do. And these points should be, I think, well understood by many of the people in this room. But while transportation and energy systems around the world have been incredibly beneficial to society, they've also carried a huge price. The pollution price that comes with these services has been substantial, and it's to a point where we can't continue to operate and scale these same energy systems the way we have in the past. And in particular, the atmospheric carbon dioxide is one of the biggest, most long-term problems that's going to stick with us for generations. Today, I think many of you know this, but the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere is higher than it's been in perhaps the last 1,000,000 years. And if you zoom in and look at just the last several centuries of this, I think the problem becomes even more clear. And this is something that is clearly man-made. This is clearly a result of burning fossil fuels and putting all of that carbon from underground back into the atmosphere. And there's many, many bad consequences of doing this, some which we may not even fully understand yet. But perhaps the most direct is the consequence of increasing temperatures around the world. And there's many ways to visualize that, but there's a recent report that was done and a recent new visualization that was done, which I think is particularly compelling, which is looking at an animation of global temperatures all the way back from the early 1800s. You can see this kind of spiraling out from the center, all the way to the current day. And you can see as the temperatures start to increase, how fast this spiral is unwinding. It's really pretty phenomenal to me, the scope and scale of how fast this is actually changing. And if you look at it just in a graphical format, maybe it's even more stark in some ways. And we've all read the media reports that 2016 has been the hottest year on record so far, and really every single month has been the hottest month on record. But when you look at it actually in a graph like this, I think you realize just how far above the average we are. This isn't just a little statistical deviation for 1 month or 1 year. It's setting a brand new curve. And these problems and this general overall issue of how do we decarbonize our energy infrastructure and how do we decarbonize our transportation infrastructure are the key problems that inspired Tesla in the very beginning. And today, this is still our mission. The company's mission is to accelerate the transition of the world to sustainable energy and sustainable transportation. This is something we need to do as a society. We don't have all that many years to do this. And there's a huge amount of work in every different sector to make this happen. And to look at where we've come as a company at Tesla, we started not that long ago. We're a relatively young company. The whole company was founded in about 2003 and has grown incredibly quickly, as the excitement and interest in these particular problems has grown around the world. It was only back in about 2008 that we introduced our very first product, the Tesla Roadster, And through until this year when we unveiled the Model 3, which I'll talk a bit more about later. So it's been an enormously quick trajectory so far and very, very exciting growth. This is compared to many of the other large companies in this space, the large automotive companies that have histories, well over 100 years in most cases. So it's an interesting contrast of, new technology growth versus, manufacturing stability of older technology. And perhaps to start in the beginning of the story, this is a picture from Tesla in 2005 when there were only about 15 or 20 of us in the company. It was, really, a very different activity in those days. And this was one of our first prototypes. And something that we did that I think, defined our brand from the very beginning was to focus on performance. Many other electric vehicles and the startup car companies that had come before us were focused on, either pure efficiency or, very short range, low performance vehicles. And we had to break a stereotype. We had to convince people that electric vehicle technology was actually capable of competing head to head with gasoline. And we did that by, launching this product, the Tesla Roadster, that could compete on acceleration, on handling, and even on range, having more than 200 miles of range. It was competing head to head with gasoline products. And that started to change people's perceptions. And I think this was key to the brand that we've been able to build since, and to part of the resurgence of excitement in electric vehicles with many other companies around the world. But this wasn't possible just through our own engineering work. This was based on an enormous amount of battery and technology development that had happened over the years leading up to when Tesla got started. And in particular, what happened with batteries was one of the most interesting things that made this possible. This is a graph of the energy density of a number of different battery chemistries over recent years. And you can see that in about the mid-2000s, when General Motors launched their last really great effort at building a true EV, the EV1, the battery energy density was maybe around 350, 330 watt hours per liter. That's how much energy in a given volume could be stored. And when we designed the Roadster, about 10 years later, a little more than 10 years later, the energy density had roughly doubled. So we could store twice as much energy in the same volume of space. And this was fundamental to making a car that could actually compete, as I said, on performance with gasoline. It let cars go from under 100 miles of range all the way up to over 200 miles of range. It also let cars have handling and performance that people expected in a gasoline car, but this time in an electric car. So this underlying battery trend was a fundamental advance that has made EVs more relevant and has put them on a different trajectory in recent years. And the Roadster was the first car to use lithium-ion. Lithium-ion technology is the type of chemistry that made that doubling in energy density possible. And this was the first time that someone, any company, any people, had attempted to take this technology, which was invented mainly for consumer electronics in the early 2000s to power laptops and cell phones, and to take that technology and put it in cars. And we faced incredible criticism. Everyone in the industry, the battery manufacturers, car manufacturers, was quick to tell us that this could never work, this would never be safe. It was really only appropriate for electronics and small devices. So it was a very tough engineering challenge to figure out how to make very large lithium-ion battery packs and make them safely so that they could operate in this environment. But this was what was in front of us, and this was what most of our time was spent on in the early days of the company. And as we launched the Roadster in about 2008, there was something else exciting that we started to do, and that was collect data. These were the first lithium-ion cars on the road. They were the first electric vehicles on the road that had full capabilities in terms of highway performance and more than 200 miles of range. And we started to gather a lot of information on what was happening with those cars, how people were using them, how they were charging them. And with the Roadster, over the course of just a couple of years, we were able to accumulate over 5 million miles of driving data, which today, by our standards, and what we're doing with Model S and X, looks very small. But in those days, it was an enormous data set. And this was able to give us the information about the core systems in the car so that we could design the next generation even more intelligently. For instance, these are just a few snapshots of some of the things that we were able to learn back in the Roadster days. But we can understand how people were using the batteries in terms of what voltage they charged to, what temperatures they operated at, and things like this. This was very interesting data that no one else had at that time. And we were able to apply all of that information back to the design of our next product, which became the Model S. And Something also we did differently here was start from the absolute ground up. To build an amazing EV, you can't start with a gasoline car and then convert it into an electric car. No amazing product is sort of launched or designed in that way. You have to go from first principles and design the very best electric car possible with the technology at hand. And this is what we did with the Model S. We started from scratch with a brand new team, roughly, and built a car from the ground up. As you see in that picture there, the battery is one of the most interesting and core physical structures in the Model S. It's located in the bottom of the car. It's that big silver rectangle that sits underneath the entire passenger compartment of the car. And by putting the battery in that position, we're able to maximize the occupant volume in the cabin, and we're also able to move the center of gravity of the car very low. So handling naturally follows from that. You're naturally able to corner very well and accelerate and brake very well. So this was a key to the overall architecture of the car. It also let us remove any obstacles from the crash structure in the front and rear of the car. You notice there's obviously no big engine hanging out the front of the car in order to get in the way when you hit something, and the back of the car was also completely free. So we could engineer very, very safe crash structures in the front and back of the car. And that was part of what let us make the Model S the safest car ever tested by the Department of Transportation, NHTSA, in the US. And still today, we continue to hear amazing stories about people that have been in unfortunate accidents but have actually been able to walk away because the car has such a great ability to crush benignly and to crush safely in the front and rear. And overall, the Model S turned into, I think, a great success. It even surprised, some of us in some ways how well the market received this car. We set out to build the best car in the world, but it ended up actually being the best car in the world. And we actually broke the rating system for Consumer Reports, which was a rating agency in the US, a very independent and very tough agency that rates different products. And they had never tested a car that could have this type of efficiency and this type of performance in the same vehicle. With gasoline, that's impossible to do. You just can't actually achieve 100 miles per gallon and also 0 to 60 in less than 4 seconds. So those combination of high performance, high efficiency, and all the luxury features in a sedan like this, no one had ever seen before. And electric technology is what makes that possible. We've also built the Model X, which is an SUV on the same platform as the Model S. So this is a car we launched last year, and we're now ramping up production in California and delivering this car all around the world. But these two cars share similar underlying propulsion technology in terms of batteries and motors and some of the same operating software. And also with electric vehicles, they naturally lend themselves toward being more connected and to being more computer controlled than a typical gasoline car. This was something we took to heart with the Model S. We spent a lot of time reinventing the user interface in that car and reimagining how people would control things, even all the way from headlights to seats to windows. And all of that goes into a touchscreen. If you sit inside of the Model S, you see one gigantic LCD touchscreen in the center of the cockpit. And from that touchscreen, you can control all the features in the car. We don't have a whole list of buttons and knobs and things like this. That screen also displays maps, it displays music, anything you really want, very much like a large modern consumer electronics device. And this is what customers wanted. When we talked to people, they expected that a modern car should have the same capabilities as a good consumer electronics device. The other thing that we launched with this car was the full ability to have wireless software updates. This was something that seemed kind of mundane to us. Every smartphone on the planet was already doing this, every computer was already doing this, but no cars had actually done this. And it's turned into an incredibly powerful and beneficial feature. We're able to update the software in the car roughly every quarter with a major release, and then perhaps every month with more minor releases. And this allows us to add new features over time. The performance and capabilities of the car literally get better the longer you own it. We're also able to improve different performance if we see service issues. In some cases, we can actually fix service problems with the car if there's something that we see happening in the field, we can send a software update that avoids the impact of that on the customer. So they may not even have to bring their car physically in if we can fix it remotely via software. And this is also something that has led us to have great control and visibility over charging and the energy use of the car. So the tie-in between the car's electronic systems and its energy systems back to the grid is something I'll talk a bit more about in the end. But that paves the way toward having a very integrated energy system with how the energy is generated. And if we look at the mileage fleet from where we are today with the Model S, it's a pretty different graph than what it was with the Roadster. That little green line at the bottom, if you can see it, was the Roadster graph. And the Roadster graph actually ended in 2010, the one we looked at last time. So that's actually kind of over on the axis. It's not even off the axis yet. Today, the Model S fleet has over 2 billion miles of driving data, which is a substantial amount of miles. And just like with the Roadster, we're able to gather this information and understand what's happening with the car, understand the performance of the batteries, the motors, the charging behavior, trip lengths, all kinds of things that the customers are doing, and use this data to optimize the components as we design the next generation of the vehicle and the next generation of the components. And one of the key learnings from this that we've been growing and building out more has been our charging network. Achieving 2 billion miles of driving would have been very difficult if we didn't have the ability for customers to use the car in their daily driving, to just use the car as they would use a gasoline car. And we invented something we call the Supercharger, which is a very fast DC charging station that can recharge and refuel the car in typically under 30 minutes. And this is, as far as we know, the fastest production charging station on the planet. You can recover a range at a rate of about 400 miles per hour. So if you were to stay at the station for 10 minutes, you can divide by that time and understand how much range you would get back. It's about 120 kilowatts of power. And we started basically deploying these stations shortly after we launched the Model S. And we've done this ourselves. We've launched these stations in California, then expanding across the US, then ultimately expanding across Europe and Asia. And today, this is what the network looks like in the US. We open a new station roughly every 18 to 24 hours. So there's continuous expanding growth. Customers today pick up their car at our factory in Fremont very, very frequently, and then they'll drive it home. And home might be 2,000 kilometers away. It may even be halfway across the country. But they can easily do that by just using this supercharged station network, driving for 3 or 4 hours on the highway, stopping for 20 minutes, and then driving for another several hours. So you can do that all the way across the US, up and down the coast, up into Canada. And this network is now expanded extensively into Europe and all across China and parts of Japan. In Europe, we actually can go all the way from above the Arctic Circle down to the south of France using nothing but the Supercharger network. And to us, this has been a really key part of adoption for the electric vehicle. Being able to have the peace of mind that you can charge wherever you're going and you can take long trips without having to worry about range or anything like that is a key part of making sure a market has the right infrastructure for electric vehicles. But of course, we're not stopping with the Model 3. All of our internal engineering and R&D, while still continuing with the S and the X platform, is also beginning to work heavily on the Model 3. And this is a car that has been in our vision for a very long time. As you look at the mission of Tesla, it wasn't to just build expensive cars, and it wasn't to just build luxury or high-performance vehicles. It was to actually make a difference in the overall energy use in transportation. And to do that, we have to continually bring down the price of our vehicles. And that is where most of our engineering focus is how to make lower-cost components that can enable excellent EVs. So with the Roadster to the Model S, we roughly were able to drop the price of the car in half. The Roadsters were over $100,000 US, and the Model S today starts around $70,000 to $75,000 US. And with the Model 3, we've been able to do that again. And our launch price for this car is $35,000 US. So again, we've been able to cut the price of the vehicle roughly in half. And the key is still allowing more than 215 miles of range. Being able to achieve high range and low cost in the same vehicle is a really difficult problem. We've seen manufacturers that have had low-cost electric cars, but they typically sacrifice range or performance to do it. And you can obviously have high range and high performance in a car like the Model S, but at a price point that not everyone can afford. So this is a vehicle that we've been working on for a very long time, and we launched it earlier this year to great excitement at an event in Los Angeles at our design studio. And the market reception for this car has been phenomenal. It's surprised even us. We had different bets and pools inside of the company from engineers and salespeople trying to guess how many orders we would get for this car in the weeks that followed the launch, and almost everyone was wrong. In the first several weeks after the launch of this car, we've received almost 400,000 orders for the car. It's I think unprecedented in the auto industry, and perhaps unprecedented for any product in that scale. These are a few more pictures of the car. It's a full function, full performance vehicle, comfortably carries 5 people. And what happened at our stores after the launch was even more interesting. We enabled people to get in line early at the stores, and if they were physically at the store and signed up, they could get an earlier spot in the reservation line and get an earlier car. And we thought, maybe we'd see 10 or 20 people at the stores. Well, we again, completely got this wrong. Before opening of the stores on the morning of this launch day, we had upwards of 500 to 600 people in line at almost every one of our stores. In some cases, there were over 1,000 people in line at the stores. And we're not a terribly big company. We only have 2 or 3 employees per store. It was quite an interesting situation, having these poor employees, trying to process a line of 1,000 people. But the excitement was amazing, and the overwhelming response, I think, has proven that there is massive demand for electric vehicles. A criticism we've seen from the market all the way from when we founded the company has consistently been, do people really want these cars? Is there enough demand? And it's typically framed as a bit of a chicken and egg problem where manufacturers may not want to build a new model of EV because they think there isn't enough demand, or maybe a government doesn't want to invest in an infrastructure because there isn't demand. And I think this has been a great example to help dispel some of that. With the right car, with the right features and performance, there clearly is demand. It's massive, and it's really an incredible depth, because this has been coming from all around the world. We even saw people waiting in line in the rain. This was in Seattle in the United States, where they were waiting for several hours in the rain to sign up for a car. That's a pretty phenomenal thing. And I think it shows just again how much they want this type of technology. They want clean technology and green technology. Now, to achieve this, it's a big challenge. And of course, it's not a simple challenge to ramp up production from where we are with the S and the X, building at a rate of around 100,000 cars per year, going 5 times that to build at a rate of almost 500,000 cars per year. But this is something we've been investing in and understanding how to accelerate and ramp up faster for quite a while. And since the launch of the Model 3, we've been finding ways to accelerate that ramp even faster. And the Gigafactory, where we build all of the batteries for the Model 3, is one of the key factors in how we're going to achieve this. This single factory is going to be the biggest battery factory on the planet. And it's located in Tahoe, Reno, in the United States, a few hundred miles away from our vehicle production plant. And this plant is going to build enough batteries to supply over 500,000 Model 3s per year. We're already under construction on this plant, and we've been working on this for several years now. And this construction is now accelerating in order to meet the demand and the increased schedule for Model 3. This is just an aerial picture of what that factory looks like. It's hard to get a sense of scale. When this factory is completed, it will be one of the biggest production facilities, one of the biggest buildings of any kind in the world. And it gives you a sense of the type of new economy that's being created by these new technology, new energy products. And even as exciting as it is with Tesla selling this many Model 3s, it's a tiny percentage of the overall cars in the world, a tiny percentage of just the new cars in the world. There's almost 100 million new cars sold every single year around the world. And if you think of what percentage of 100 million, 400,000 is, it's not a big percent. It's tiny. So the opportunity and the scale of what has to happen from not just Tesla, but from all the manufacturers to ramp up production, to launch new models is quite incredible. One of the other things that the Gigafactory has enabled for us is a more quick and more dramatic reduction in the cost of energy storage. The goal of this factory is not just to meet the demand of the car, but also to do it in a way that enables the price point. So to bring down that cost per kilowatt hour of batteries much faster than would happen if we weren't vertically integrating and investing in this scale of production. But as that's happened, we've also been able to realize a bit of a new market, which ties into the other objective and the other vision for Tesla, which is to address sustainable energy. And for quite a while, we've seen that there's a bit of this missing link between sustainable and renewable energy and renewable transportation, electric vehicles. Certainly to make an electric vehicle completely sustainable, you want to power it with renewable energy, with solar or wind or hydro or tidal energy, something that doesn't emit CO2. And to do that, you need to find ways to buffer that energy and to find ways to address the intermittency if you want it to scale to a high percentage. So what we've done with Tesla Energy is to adapt the battery architectures and the battery production that we do at the Gigafactory into a different set of products that can store energy for the grid. We have products that can store energy for the grid in your home, and also that are larger, that can store energy at commercial or industrial locations, or even scale up to store energy at utility levels. And these products we launched last year, early last year, and we've been scaling up this activity and seen great excitement in this market. There's many places around the world that have reached sort of the breaking point or the pain point on the amount of renewable energy that they've installed, and there really is no other solution but to start installing storage. These are a few examples from Australia. We've installed many, many residential systems in Australia, also in Germany, in California, of course, all around Europe. And the vision that we see here is essentially enabling someone to have a completely carbon-free lifestyle. With products that can be easily accessible today, making decisions that you can put perhaps solar on your rooftop, buy an electric vehicle, for converting all of your petroleum use, and then install storage in your home so that you don't need to sell energy back to the utility and then buy fossil energy at night. If you are able to set up this collection of systems, you can serve all of your needs, both for transportation and your energy use at home, in a completely carbon-free way. This isn't science fiction. It's not something that's going to take another decade. These are products that all exist today. So this is something we're pretty excited about as we scale this up and find ways to build this network out. And these systems also don't have to operate completely independently. Something that we're increasingly getting excited about is the ability to network even the stationary energy storage installations together. Those homes can aggregate themselves into a smart network across an entire community and across an entire city or even across a small nation. And with intelligent control and communication to each one of them, you're able to get them to behave much like a single larger system. So you can start to deliver services to the overall utility grid in these regions to stabilize the grid or to respond to large swings in demand or generation. And this also doesn't have to be limited to just stationary batteries. Once we have this communication link established, and once we can figure out how to control and dispatch these systems, you can do the same thing with cars. So it starts to be a pretty exciting and compelling vision to address the intermittency of renewable energy by intelligently controlling all of these distributed assets to absorb energy when you have a surplus and to perhaps feed it back into the grid when there's not enough wind or not enough solar energy. And we're also addressing this at a commercial and industrial level. So not just in homes and people's residential homes, but we've adapted these batteries even to much bigger systems. This is an example of an industrial system we have in California that's about 4 megawatt hours. It's powering an industrial site. And it's able to not only provide relief from peak demand electricity prices in the afternoons or in the middle of the day when typically electricity is expensive, but it can also provide backup power. So if the utility has an outage, industrial sites are able to keep operating parts of their facility, which can have a clear and immediate financial benefit. And instead of having a backup generator that might have air emissions problems or noise or other maintenance, these batteries are completely quiet. And they can be located even in very dense urban areas. So you can now have clean backup power that's working without any emissions and also serving a daily need to reduce your overall electricity loads. And this is increasingly exciting as the prices for renewable energy at the utility scale continue to decline. And in parts of the US now and other parts around the world, we're seeing renewable energy contracts that are actually cheaper than the cheapest fossil fuels, cheaper than coal electricity. For instance, in Nevada, in the US, there was a large solar energy system that signed a purchase agreement at under 4 cents per kilowatt hour, 4 US cents. It was about 3.8 cents. And that energy is among the cheapest energy you can possibly buy. The downside is you have to use it as it comes. And obviously with solar energy, it's not a steady stream of energy. It's intermittent. You only have energy when the sun is shining and only when there's not a cloud or something like that on top of your solar farm. So while the energy is cheaper than fossil fuel, you can't rely on it 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this is what is starting to cause some challenges as we look at real-world examples of using this cheap energy. And I think one case study, which is interesting to spend a few seconds on, partially because there are some parallels to the situation here in Jeju, is some work we've done in Hawaii, on the island of Kauai. They have a very strong vision to achieve 50% of all of their energy from renewables by 2023. It's about a 500 square mile island with maybe 65,000 people, so quite a lot smaller than Jeju, but an interesting place where they've started this. And they've been focused more on solar because of the strong resource there and less of a wind resource. But they've started installing utility scale solar arrays. In this case, this is a 6 megawatt array that provides up to 10% of the total peak load of that entire island in just this one power plant. And this is very compelling for the utility there because the price of the energy they get from these solar plants is much cheaper than the price of the energy when they deliver it from fossil fuel. They have to import petroleum and burn it in generators, requiring a lot of maintenance and then logistics to move the fuel source to the generators. And all of that ends up costing around twice as much as the energy from these solar farms. So they've started scaling this up. This is now about the 4th solar installation of this scale that they've done. And an interesting thing happens if you look at the load curve on this island. Because it's a relatively small island, you can look at this data and it's fairly simple to collect it. And in this case, you can see that on the y-axis is the number of megawatts of demand and the x-axis is the time of day. So in the middle of the day is where you see this sort of trough starting to appear. And as more and more solar is installed, the load curve continues to drop down in the middle of the day, which makes sense. That's when solar energy is generating all of its power. But you also see that by roughly this year and the beginning of last year, they were getting to a place where 60, maybe even 70% of their daytime load was being met by solar. That was only about 20% of their overall energy use throughout the entire 24 hours in the day. But it poses a pretty serious problem as they keep scaling this up. At some point, they have an issue where you can't go to below zero load without storage. So we've worked on a very exciting project with this island, and I think it's the first of its kind at this scale. This is an incremental 13 megawatts of solar with a 50 megawatt hour battery storage system. And this will be the biggest battery system anywhere in North America, anywhere I think in the Pacific Island region as well. And it's coupled directly to this very large solar installation so that together they can deliver fixed energy back to the utility when it's needed. Instead of just directly connecting the solar straight into the grid and suffering the variability, this allows them to buffer that and to deliver dispatchable energy when it's needed. And without this, they would have a situation that looks a bit like this red curve. And it's dipping below zero on some days in the middle of the day. That wouldn't work. You'd have to curtail the energy from the solar array. And with the battery, you're able to absorb the energy and then redeliver it back in the evening peak when you would otherwise have to be ramping on a lot of fossil fuel generators. So technically this is very cool. Technically this is very exciting. But the other amazing thing is that all of this is able to happen at less than the price of the fossil fuel equivalent, even with the storage. The solar alone was far cheaper, but even today, the solar plus the battery ended up being cheaper for the utility than adding incremental fossil fuel generation. So that's a pretty phenomenal thing. And if you can do that at this scale, there's no reason you can't continue to scale this up. This technology can scale all the way to 100%. And the vision that we have is, why not continue scaling this? And if you take the thought exercise in the United States, for instance, of what would it take if you just use solar to eliminate 100% of the fossil fuel use? All transportation, all heating, all electricity generation, all of it. You'd only need about this much solar area. It's a lot smaller than I think most people expect. This would eliminate all fossil fuel use in the United States. Now, of course, you'd also need storage to go with that, but the storage area is only a few percent of even the solar area. So the technology exists today to start to scale and attack all of these problems. It's a pretty exciting time. Even 10 years ago, we didn't have solar technology or wind technology that could work at a price point to compete with fossil fuel effectively, and we didn't have storage technology as well that could store it over the 24-hour period. So overall, I think this is a pretty exciting vision. And for us, the transition away from fossil fuels is not going to be driven by fear or running out of fossil fuels. We're going to have to leave a lot of unburned energy in the ground. We can't burn all of the oil and gas and coal that we have in this world, or we'll create an environmental disaster for ourselves. But luckily, the products that we can create using alternative energy and sustainable technology are better in many, many ways than the fossil technologies they're replacing. And as we saw with the Model 3, I think we're going to see consumer demand and excitement for these new technologies, creating a pull in the market, which will actually draw people towards sustainability without having to force them there with some kind of stick or with regulations and rules. So for me, as an engineer and someone working in this field, it's probably one of the most exciting times, to be alive and working on this space. I can't think of too many other times in history when we get a chance to reinvent and retool so much of our infrastructure, both for energy and for transportation. All of this is getting reinvented over the next several decades, and it's a really cool time to be working in that field. So thank you for your time, and now I think we'll save some time for a bit of discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Straubel. Thank you for your lecture. That was full of exciting stories about electric vehicle development, and also gave us very important messages for sustainable environment for the future of humanity. Now it's time for us to invite Governor Won Hee-ryong of Jeju Special Self-Governing Province to have a dialogue with Mr. Straubel to the stage. Please give a warm welcome for Governor Won and Mr. Straubel. Well, Jeju Special Self-Governing Province has an ambitious plan to have all cars used on the island to be electric vehicles by year 2030. We are very fortunate to have this opportunity to listen to the dialogue between Mr. Straubel and Governor Won.
여러분 반갑습니다. 저도 여러분들과 함께 플로우에서 우리 테슬라의 기술 책임자 CTO인 스트라우벨의 프레젠테이션을 잘 들었습니다. 무엇보다도 깨끗하고 스마트한 보물섬 제주에 오신 것을 진심으로 환영하고 10일에 제주포럼에 참석해 주신 데 대해서 진심으로 감사를 드립니다. 이 자리에서 우리 자동차 부분 그리고 앞으로 에너지와 인공지능까지를 포함한 첨단 분야에서의 세계 최고의 혁신적인 엔지니어 리더를 만나게 되어서 매우 기쁘게 생각합니다. 우리 스트로벨은 어저께 제주에 도착해서 하룻밤 지낸 걸로 알고 있습니다. 가벼운 질문부터 시작을 하겠습니다. 하룻밤 주무시면서 제주에 대한 느낌이 어떠세요?
Well, thank you for having me here. It's a beautiful place, and this is my first trip to Jeju Island. So for me, it's exciting to see a new part of the world and a new part of Korea. And I think first impressions are it's a very relaxed place, and seems like a great place to. I wish I could spend even more time. Unfortunately, all of our schedules are cut short.
네, 감사합니다. 자, 우리 첫 번째 질문 던지면서 우리 스트라우벨의 비전과 앞으로의 계획들을 들어보겠습니다. 테슬라의 모델 3호, 모델 3가 아까 프레젠테이션에서 봤던 것처럼 폭발적인 관심을 끌고 있습니다. 모든 세계인들이 그리고 관련 분야의 전문가들까지 포함해서 궁금해하는 게 어떻게 35,000달러라는 파격적인 가격에 1회 충전에 350km가 주행이 되는 그러한 획기적인 성능이 가능한 것인지, 진짜 가능한 것인지에 대해서 궁금합니다. 이에 대해서 기술 책임자로서 그 비결이랄까, 그것이 가능한 그 논리에 대해서 한번 들려주시기를 바라겠고요. 말씀하신 것처럼 40만 대의 주문이 이미 밀려 있습니다. 한국에서도 꽤 많은 소비자들이 주문을 했는데요. 궁금해하는 것이 과연 예정된 시간에 제대로 공급이 될 수 있는지에 대해서 많은 사람들이 궁금을 합니다. 특히 앞으로 한국에서의 이 테슬라 모델들의 판매 계획, 특히 아까도 전 세계 그 슈퍼차저의 설치 지도를 봤을 때 일본과 중국에는 지금 망을 갖춰 나가고 있는데 한국에는 아직 슈퍼차저가 한 대도 설치가 돼 있지 않습니다. 결국 테슬라의 이 새로운 모델이 판매되고 그게 제대로 운행이 되려면 바로 충전의 문제가 부닥칠 텐데 슈퍼차저의 한국에서의 설치 계획까지 포함해서 한번 포괄적인 테슬라의 비전을 말씀해 주시기 바랍니다.
Well, thank you for the question. The technology and the background that has made Model 3 possible, I think was set in motion even back when we started the Roadster. And this would not have been possible as the first vehicle that we were building. This is the third generation of a lot of the technologies that go into that platform, the third generation of battery technology and motor and power electronics. So we've been able to learn a huge amount based on those products and having them in the market around the world at a scale. We learned from the Roadster to the Model S, and now we've been able to learn a lot of lessons and improve the engineering fairly dramatically from the Model S and the X platform to the Model X, or to the Model 3, excuse me. The other piece that's critical to delivering on the price point is the economy of scale. And I mentioned the Gigafactory briefly, but that is absolutely a key part of our strategy. So one of the biggest challenges in delivering the Model 3 with that range and at that price is lowering the cost of the energy storage, lowering the cost of the battery. And one of the key ways we've been able to do that is with the Gigafactory by combining the supply chain and enabling a new sense of scale that no one had ever attempted before with lithium-ion batteries. We're manufacturing all the way from raw materials through to finished battery packs for the electric car in one factory. So it reduces the logistics cost, it reduces the energy cost and all the overhead of shipping things all around the world. Now, I do think we will make the manufacturing and the deliveries of the car on time. This is a huge challenge for us, but it's a great problem to have. A lot of people were worried previously about would we even have demand for the car. So it's exciting for us to be knocking off one problem and one challenge at a time and demonstrating demand and demonstrating the overall vision for the car was the first challenge. The second challenge is how do we scale up the operations, the supply chain, and the manufacturing and launch of that car on time. And I can say, with some confidence that Tesla has learned a huge amount from all the work we've done. The leap we made going from Roadster to Model S was actually a much higher percentage increase in production than what we have to do going from the Model S and the X to the Model 3. You know, we went up by almost 20 times when we went between Roadster and Model S. Now we have to make a 5x leap. And this is not something that's never been done by the automotive industry. You know, these are scales that the industry knows how to build, and we're hiring experts from the industry where appropriate, and also leveraging the Fremont, California production plant that we already have in operation. And that same plant, when it used to be owned by Toyota, had already built around 500,000 cars per year, gasoline cars. So, you know, we have a vision for how we're going to achieve this, and we have, you know, high confidence that we can do this on time. Now, to your third point, infrastructure is key, you know, to market success. You know, we've learned that clearly, and ahead of the launch of, you know, electric vehicles successfully in a market, you want to have the infrastructure well addressed, not after. So, in Korea, you know, there's already a fairly good electric vehicle infrastructure, and it's growing thanks to the efforts of people like yourself. And, you know, I can't say much more about Tesla's plans directly in the Korean market, but before any entry, I think of, you know, successful entry, it would be important to make sure that we had the charging infrastructure in place, both a combination of, you know, our own network, you know, whether it were superchargers, and also leveraging the public networks that exist. So, you know, that's I think a key part of the ultimate strategy in any new market that we go into.
네, 테슬라의 비전, 그러니까 이 교통과 에너지 이 분야에서 지속 가능한 발전을 위해서 이 첨단 기술을 실현을 시켜낸다는 그런 비전이 우리 제주도의 비전과도 많이 공통점을 갖고 있다고 생각합니다. 제주도는 2030년까지 카본 프리 탄소 없는 섬을 추구하고 있습니다. 모든 에너지를 풍력과 태양광 등 신재생 에너지에서 생산을 하고요. 이것을 아까 프레젠테이션에 나왔던 에너지 저장 장치로 저장을 했다가 100% 전기 자동차 그리고 스마트 시티라고 하는 우리 가정과 공공부문 그리고 산업부문 모두의 이 깨끗한 이 저장된 전기로 에너지를 해결하면서 이 기초 위에서 교통 또는 새로운 서비스, 새로운 비즈니스 이런 것으로 전 섬 자체를 깨끗한 에너지에 의해서 매우 지능적으로 스마트하게 운영되는 섬이라는 비전을 향하고 있습니다. 우리 테슬라에서 그동안 제주의 이런 프로젝트에 대해서 혹시 관심을 가져왔었는지, 그리고 이러한 제주의 비전과 이 대한민국의 미래의 이 탄소 저감을 위한 이런 프로젝트에 대한 평가를 부탁을 드리고요. 한국 시장과 앞으로의 어떤 이 제주도의 전기자동차 산업 및 시장에 대해서 어떤 전망을 하시는지 전문가로서의 견해를 부탁드립니다.
Yeah, well, I have learned quite a lot more about the vision for Jeju Island and the energy structure here while I've been here at this trip, and it's a compelling vision. You know, I think it's the same direction that the whole world needs to head over time, but this is a unique case to be a test bed and to, you know, offer examples to do this at a scale that can, you know, show the rest of the country and the world how to do that, you know, more aggressively. You know, I think there's massive potential in this type of vision, in combining vehicles with distributed energy storage and with renewable energy. You know, this is going to be a massive area of growth for many different companies and many different products all around the world, but I think, you know, starting here could be a very good way to do that. And, you know, we definitely think that's the right direction to go. I think you've understood how to link these things together in a very, you know, intelligent way. You know, we see some locations that are only focusing on one part of the problem and not the big picture. And by combining renewable energy, vehicles, and storage with smart communication between them, you know, you're able to do, you know, things that you can't do with just one piece of that puzzle.
네, 감사합니다. 한국에서는 최근에 이세돌 구단 바둑의 챔피언이었는데요. 인공지능 알파고라는 이름의 구글의 인공지능 컴퓨터에게 패배를 해서 한국 국민뿐만 아니라 세계에 충격을 주었습니다. 저도 바둑이 비록 6급밖에 안 되는 아마추어지만 충격을 받았습니다. 앞으로 인공지능이 이런 바둑뿐만 아니라 모든 산업과 우리 인류의 생활 모두에게 정말 혁명적인 변화를 불러올 것이라고 예상을 하고, 우리 대한민국과 제주도도 벌써 성큼 다가와 있는 인공지능 시대에 어떻게 가장 잘 준비되어 있게 할 것인가가 새로운 과제로 다가오고 있습니다. 우리 스트라우벨은 특히 인공지능의 발전이 앞으로 자동차에 어떠한 역할을 할 것으로 보시는지, 특히 우리 일론 머스크 테슬라 회장은 앞으로 3, 4년 내에 완벽한 자동주행 자동차를 시장에 출시하겠다라고 이미 선언한 바가 있습니다. 그것을 가능케 하기 위한 테슬라의 전략이 무엇인지, 그리고 현재 모델 3가 자동주행, 즉 오토파일럿 기능을 일부 도입을 하고 있는 것으로 알고 있는데, 그것의 솔직한 현재의 수준이 어떠한지 여기에 대해서 좀 전반적으로 소개를 해주시고요. 마지막에 테슬라의 이 자동주행과 인공지능을 향한 앞으로의 이 도전들이 구글과 애플과는 어떻게 차별되는지, 구글과 애플이 궁극적으로 테슬라의 경쟁 상대인지와 연결시켜서 한번 전반적으로 고견을 듣고 싶습니다.
Well, overall, I think artificial intelligence is going to have huge impacts on many parts of society, and it's something that's increasing and improving in its capabilities at a phenomenal rate. Both from the computing power and the availability of cheaper computing power to enable it, but also the software work to enable it. We see both of these things going so fast that it's almost scary in some ways. And in particular, I think the transportation industry will be uniquely affected by artificial intelligence. And maybe I would even call it computer intelligence in some ways, because one of the principal problems of autonomous vehicles is taking images from cameras and understanding how to interpret those images and make decisions from them. It's something that humans do naturally, and we do it very, very well. We can look at something and tell what it is, or make associations with that. But historically, computers have not done that very well. But the software and the capability to learn what an image is and what it means and what to do when you see it is what's improving at incredible rates. We already have cameras that they're very cheap. Every camera in your phone is more than capable enough to allow someone to drive a car. The software behind that camera is where the really interesting work is happening today. And with learning algorithms, we're able to look at very large data sets of images and large fields of information, and then start to process through those and teach the computer, let it teach itself how to be a better and better image processor. And ultimately that means teaching itself to be a better and better driver in a car case. And this is part of why the fleet of cars today, the S and the X fleet of cars with Tesla that have autopilot features, is able to be collecting data at close to 1 million miles a day. That's a huge amount of driving, and it's a huge amount of experience that it gets to learn every single day. A human driver might only drive 1 million miles in their entire lifetime, even if they drive a lot. But these cars can cover that many miles in a day. And the collective knowledge can also be brought back together. They don't all have to operate as complete individuals. This is something unique with computers. They can network together to share their knowledge and make the collective group much smarter. So we're seeing that as a great feature with autopilot and autonomous cars. And perhaps one of the biggest benefits as these features get better and better is the safety. This will be one of the biggest reasons that autonomous features get adopted in transportation, is to save lives. human drivers are really quite bad. If you actually look at the accident causes and accident rates in cars, they're very, very high. They're much, much higher than any kind of public transit or systems that are designed to be more focused and operated by, more by computer. But most humans think they're good drivers. Now, when you get to overlay a good autonomous safety system on top of a human driver, we have the chance to save so many different accidents, to alert them, if there's an impact or some collision that they may not even be aware of. So, even at the beginning of our understanding of this, we're seeing roughly, we think, around a 50% improvement in the safety of the vehicles, even operated with the early autopilot features. And that's going to improve. Ultimately, I think we'll see, substantially greater improvements in safety there. And, the end vision would be getting to a vehicle that simply cannot crash. It doesn't allow itself to be crashed. And I think that is going to be, a huge benefit to society. Vehicle accidents are one of the biggest sources of fatalities for people in the younger generation when they're not being affected by health issues. So it's something as a society that we've come to accept, but we don't have to. Technology can help fix this problem. And maybe to your final point about some of the other companies working in this space, I think it's natural that we'll see many other companies jumping into artificial intelligence. It affects so many other industries, not just transportation. And it's interesting also that we see this coming from the software companies, because it's fundamentally a software problem. It takes brilliant software engineers and scientists to work on those issues. So typically, it doesn't naturally come out of companies that are large manufacturing companies, but it comes out of information technology companies. And I don't think that there's going to be there's definitely a race right now around the world, with different people working faster and faster and trying to invent better features. But it's an exciting time. The progress here is even faster than it is in battery improvement or the price of renewable energy. So we're going to invent tools here, I think, that can make other problems easier to solve.
네, 감사합니다. 테슬라가 우리 기가팩토리라든가 테슬라의 여러 가지 그 사업들을 진행하는 과정에서 한국 기업들과도 협력을 많이 하는 것으로 저희가 알고 있습니다. 특히 자율주행의 안전판 역할을 하는 이 fail safety 기능, 오작동을 방지하는 그 기능에 대해서는 한국의 만도와 협력을 하고 있고요. 그다음 텔레매틱스에 대해서는 KT, 그리고 전기차 전용 타이어에 대해서는 한국 타이어 등과 이미 협력을 한다는 뉴스를 듣고 있습니다. 저희 반갑게 생각을 하고요. 앞으로 한국 기업들과의 협력을 확대할 계획에 대해서 듣고 싶은데, 특히 그 중에서도 한국의 배터리 회사인 LG케미컬, LG화학과 삼성 SDI 등 한국의 배터리 회사와의 협력 계획에 대해서도 조금 밝혀질 수 있으면 고맙겠습니다.
Well, we work with suppliers all around the world in every single country, for different parts of the car. It's a very diverse supply base, and there's certainly some excellent technical suppliers and excellent technical capability here in Korea. Unfortunately, I can't really give away any details on who we're working with in terms of future capabilities or future projects. But this is something where for Model 3, we've seen suppliers all around the world, so excited to work on this project. I think, when we started with the Roadster and the S, it was hard to get the best suppliers to express interest in Tesla. They didn't believe the products would be successful, and now it's completely the opposite. We have all of the best suppliers, from Korea, from Japan, from Europe, coming to us, asking us, how they can participate, how can they, be a part of this, because they see the exciting growth that's going to happen with electric vehicles, and I think, they have the same vision that, for their future business, they want to find ways to participate in the EV growth as well.
네, 감사합니다. 우리 제주 포럼의 저희의 늘 기본적인 주제는 평화와 번영입니다. 평화와 번영이기도 하고 평화를 통한 번영이기도 합니다. 그래서 특히 제주는 앞으로의 평화 사업에 초점을 많이 맞추고 있습니다. 평화 산업이란 이런 것이죠. 예를 들어서 석유와 가스 같은 화석 연료를 차지하기 위해서는 전쟁도 있고 분쟁이 끊이지 않는 것이 현실입니다. 하지만 새로운 에너지, 신재생 에너지, 예를 들어서 태양광 또는 풍력, 햇빛과 바람을 빼앗기 위해서 전쟁이 일어나는 것은 상상하기 어렵습니다. 그렇기 때문에 바로 이 신재생 에너지는 평화의 에너지이기도 하고, 이 신재생 에너지로 우리의 문명을 바꾸어 나가는 것은 곧 평화 산업이기도 하다고 생각합니다. 그런 면에서 제주의 그린 빅뱅, 탄소 없는 섬 프로젝트, 100% 전기 자동차로의 전환해서 우리가 전 세계에 대한 실험장, 쇼케이스가 되겠다는 것은 평화 산업으로 제주의 번영을 이루어 가겠다는 제주의 비전이기도 합니다. 바로 이런 제주의 비전에 대해서 테슬라의 비전은 많은 부분이 일치됩니다. 테슬라는 기술을 가지고 있고 글로벌 네트워크를 갖고 있고 앞으로 이 분야에서 세계의 혁신의 선두주자로서 아주 많은 기여를 할 것이라고 생각합니다. 그런 면에서 앞으로 테슬라에서도 우리 제주의 비전과 함께하면서 많은 협력이 이루어지고 좋은 파트너가 될 수 있길 바랍니다. 예를 들어서 우리 제주의 100% 전기 자동차의 전환 프로젝트에 테슬라도 자동차도 와서 판매를 하시고 슈퍼차저도 설치를 하시고 또 테슬라의 앞으로의 새로운 대중적인 전기차 모델과 관련된 이런 많은 분야에서 제주에서 연구 개발을 하고 또 제주에서 새로운 제도를 도입하고 그렇게 해서 전 세계를 향한 그런 새로운 창조와 혁신의 장이 된다고 한다면 테슬라를 위해서도 도움이 되고 제주를 위해서도 도움이 되고 아마 전 세계 인류를 위한 큰 도움이 되지 않을까 생각합니다. 아까 우리 이 회의장에 오기 위한 사전 미팅에서도 잠깐 말씀을 드렸습니다마는 앞으로 테슬라에서 좀 스터디 팀 같은 걸 파견하셔서 제주의 프로젝트에 대해서 그리고 테슬라의 앞으로의 계획과 구체적으로 협력할 수 있는 부분에 대한 보다 구체적인 후속 연구가 이루어지기를 바라겠고요. 아마 워낙 전 세계에서 가장 바쁘고 가장 그 시간을 쓰는 게 값이 비싼 분이긴 하시겠지만 우리 일론 머스크 회장도 가까운 시기에 우리 한국 그리고 그 중에서 특히 제주도를 방문하셔서 우리 앞으로의 이 한국의 그린 빅뱅 프로젝트에 있어서 테슬라와 제주가 좋은 파트너로 앞으로 지속적으로 협력할 수 있게 되기를 바라겠습니다. 정말 바쁘신 일정이실 텐데 우리 스트라우벨 우리 제주에 오셔서 테슬라의 비전을 밝혀주시고 우리 제주와 구체적인 토론을 할 수 있게 된 것을 진심으로 감사드리고 앞으로 테슬라의 큰 발전을 기원하겠습니다. 여러분 큰 박수로 우리 토론을 마무리하겠습니다.
Thank you, Mr. Straubel, and thank you, Governor Wan, for sharing with us this informative, inspirational, and insightful dialogue with all of us. We could hear this for much longer, but it's time for us to wrap up this special session 2 of the 11th Jeju-Forum for Peace and Prosperity. I'd like to thank you all in this room for attending this session as well. It has been Sang-mi Park from Hankuk University of Foreign Studies, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the forum as well. Thank you very much.